Hi, good morning, everyone. This is going to be a very important video today. I'm going to talk about scientific method. I'm going to talk to you about the importance of scientific method, the crucial and critical role it plays in science. And I'm also going to explain to you why it has been neglected, how it has been neglected in the school syllabus, and people are not even able to distinguish between science and pseudoscience. Some of them even after having completed PhD. So, what exactly is a scientific method? A scientific method is known as a process or a procedure. It also comprises of a series of steps that has characterized science since at least the 17th and the 18th century. Even though the concept and idea of the scientific method is much older than that, it, it basically evolved and developed its present form in the 17th and 18th century. Of course, a lot more work is being done on it, and it is still evolving and maturing and changing with the times. The idea of the scientific method first dates back to the time of the ancient Greeks. Some important Greek scientists, researchers, and scholars such as Aristotle and Epicurus also contributed greatly to the scientific method. And during the Middle Ages and during the Islamic Golden Ages, I suppose you know what Islamic Golden Ages were. Islamic Golden Ages were a period in time when science flourished in the Muslim world. Scholars such as Hassan ibn al-Haytham, Ibn Sina, al-Biruni, Roger Bacon, and William of Ockham. I spoke to you a couple of days ago about William of Ockham. He contributed to the Occam's razor, which is a very important concept in science. They also contributed. And a lot of changes to scientific method happened during the Renaissance period and Enlightenment period, few hundred years ago. What does scientific method consist of? It consists of a series of steps. It consists of systematic observation, measurement, and experiment. Experiment is a test under control conditions in science. You have experiment, quasi experiment, you have control groups, experimental groups, etc. These form a standard part of scientific methodology. It also consists of formulation, testing, and modification of hypothesis. Okay, this is necessary for the healthy progress and growth of science. Okay, it is not being, however, emphasized in schools because, as you know, after the dawn of the internet age, there is no real need to buy hard tomes and tomes of information. Okay, you need to know the concepts and you need to understand how to apply the scientific method, and you also need to understand how to differentiate science from pseudoscience. This must become one of the pillars in the 21st century education system. Okay, so it is also necessary to distinguish science from pseudoscience. What exactly is pseudoscience? Pseudoscience is different from bad quality science. Science may be good quality science or bad quality science. However, pseudoscience is a system of theories, assumption, method, which make a pretense or make a claim of being scientific, which are in fact, however, not scientific. You have two basic types of research: qualitative research and quantitative research. In case of quantitative research, mathematical and statistical methods are often employed. Okay. However, qualitative research is mostly used in the social sciences, and it is not possible to quantify. However, even in the case of social sciences using Likert scales and other techniques, quantification is often attempted. You also have inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is you make a large number of observations and you keep generalizing. You keep studying more and more cases, etc., and you then keep generalizing and identifying laws. This is different from deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is associated with the hypothetico-deductive method, where you create a hypothesis and then you test it using more and more instances. Inductive reasoning, though we had supported it, sometimes very tedious. You also have an ideographic approach or a standalone approach and a nomothetic approach. In case of a nomothetic approach, you try to identify patterns, etc. Okay. Another important concept is known as the deductive nomological model. This is also known as Hempel's model, the Hempel-Oppenheim model, the Popper-Hempel model, and the covering model, where you try to derive laws. Okay. So, what are the basic steps in the scientific method? First, what you know do is you generate a hypothesis. Okay, hypothesis is different from a hunch. Hunch is something like a gut feel which doesn't have any firm and tenable basis. Our hypothesis does have some data, it's based on some data and some observations. However, it is preliminary and tentative. Such a preliminary hypothesis is sometimes known as a working hypothesis. Okay, a hypothesis must be testifiable, verifiable, and falsifiable. It should be capable of being proven or proven correct or proven wrong. Okay, hypothesis as it evolves, it goes into develops into a theory. Okay, and a theory eventually becomes a law. Okay, when developing a theory, you need some amount of skepticism in any scientific endeavor. It means doubting everything and anything, unless robust proof, rock solid proof or evidence can manifest itself or can be provided. Skepticism healthy. However, overdose of skepticism is unhealthy. We had written about it previously. Skepticism is a kind of skepticism which is carried out to an unhealthy degree, and it is often counterproductive. And one more thing, some more things that you would like to that you may need to bear in mind is that there is no completely standard scientific method in use. Actually, Karl Popper and others more recently in the 20th century have advocated a free form method. Okay. However, he proposed a form of principle of falsifiability. Suppose you come up with a theory state which states that all swans are white. Even the presence of a single black swan will refute the hypothesis and nullify the hypothesis that all swans are white. Okay. Variations of scientific method also do exist always, and they may be even from case to case basis. There may be variations and differences, or in some cases there will be variations based on the discipline of study that is being adopted. Okay. First, you have to identify the research problem. What is the research question? And from the research problem, emanate the research question. And you need to thoroughly study the research problem thoroughly and systematically. Okay. So you need to scrutinize it in depth. Okay. And identify the gaps in the present literature. For that, you need to do a complete literature review. So you're not existing in silo. In silos in isolation, you cannot study. So you need to study the existing knowledge as well, body of knowledge as well, systematically and thoroughly. And you also need to identify gaps in knowledge and see to what extent theories and hypotheses can be improved. Okay. And scientific phenomena must be observed carefully. In case of social sciences research techniques, you must observe daily phenomena, social phenomena in the social world as well. You need to study things carefully. Of course, you need to bear in mind ethics as necessary, and for this, often you need to have permissions or consent, etc. Okay, this comes as ethics in science. Different fields of science have their own body of ethics, and you need to make detailed notes and observations wherever necessary. Okay, I hope you have understood this. And what we have also proposed is never oversimplify, because we have a real world phenomenon, real world data, real world problems are extremely complicated. You should, of course, abstract it. Abstraction is also important, but you should never oversimplify. Oversimplify is an anathema for science. Most researchers in the present day and time fall into this trap. For example, we have the out of Africa theory, which is some kind of anti-racism. It has been highly oversimplified. Cultural variations must also be understood at times. This is being neglected by social scientists of different hues and colors. And the terms theory, hypothesis, and laws, especially in fields like economics, are used loosely, carelessly, and interchangeably. This is also wrong. Researchers also must need serve the needs of society. That is extremely important. Okay, they must not indulge in ivory tower pursuits and esoteric pursuits. No kind of nerdism is permitted. They must serve the needs of society at all time. Even modern day researchers are do not follow this, and there must be no scientific ideologies. You have scientific ideologies such as Eurocentrism, Indocentrism, Sinocentrism, Dravidian nationalism, Hindutva, etc. And as far as possible, there must be no careerism or cheap academic rivalry. And there must be also prioritization, and research must always be aligned to the needs of society, and it must solve real world problems carefully always. Okay, and researchers must also be communicated properly to the general public. It must also be communicated to other researchers so that they are aware of it. Okay. As you are aware, there are many cases where the scientific method is not being properly followed. You may say that people from India and other developing countries are guilty here. This is not the case at all. People from all over the world and from all walks of life have been guilty of violating the basic principles of science. For example, there's a concept called Atlantis. It was a fictional island mentioned in Plato's work some thousand years ago. Okay, and they are supposed to have attacked Athens in Greece, and Athens repelled their attack successfully, and Atlantis eventually fell into the got submerged into the Atlantic Ocean. This is a myth. This is absolutely false. Okay, there is no not a shred of evidence, of not an iota of evidence, not a nugget of evidence to prove that Atlantis ever existed. Similarly, the Lemuria is supposed to have existed in the Indian Ocean, south of India. Philip Scattler and others in the 1860s proposed this to account for similarities in fossils between India and Madagascar. However, this was nullified. and some Dravidian nationalists alone subscribe to this idea. Even slowly, it is fading away into oblivion and obscurity. There's another concept called the Chariot of the Gods. This was a book written in the year 1968. He just wanted to make money. His name was Erich von Däniken. Aliens supposedly visited the Earth and instilled, seeded new technologies in among early civilizations. This is demonstrably and probably false. The Orion constellation theory is another fringe theory in Egyptology, and it supposedly shows that the constellation Orion, the alignment of the stars in the constellation Orion, played a role in determining the location of the pyramids. This idea was put forward by Egyptologist Robert Bowal in 1889, but it is false again. The idea that theory Jesus lived in India was put forward by Holger Kirsten and others. This supposedly accounts for the unknown year because there is a gap in understanding of Jesus. However, the evidence presented for this is flimsy and not convincing. If people want to present their theories convincingly and want their theories to be taken seriously, people they must always present reliable and rock solid bulletproof evidence. We also have theories such as the biblical Noah's Ark theory, which is obviously false. The walls of Jericho. Jericho is a city built in 8000 BC. There is a battle of Jericho described in Joshua 6 127. Okay, and this really may not have taken place because the dates are not corroborated. They do not tally up in some up. Only a fraction of archaeologists and researchers believe that the Battle of Jericho that was described in the Bible is true. However, we may be compelled to change our ideas from time to time. Okay, anything can be accepted as long as a robust scientific method is followed. Even suppose you want to prove that the sixth sense exists, there is people have intuition and telepathy. Such things are liable to misuse, prone to misuse. So if you want them to be proven right, you must present overwhelming evidence in support of it, and you must criticize all evidence to the contrary. Okay, and again, the historicity of Moses. A few people do assume that he existed, believe that he existed, probably between 1500 BC and 1200 BC. Okay, and there is an event called the Exodus from Egypt, where the people of Egypt were liberated from slavery. It may have happened or may not have happened. Historians are divided on whether he really exists or not. For example, the historian William G. Dever says that he was a mythical person and he did not really exist. However, some other scholars such as and Conrad Schmidt and uh, Jen Schroeder considered Moses to be a historical figure. Again, you have the historicity of King Arthur. It has been debated by academics and popular writers, but however, most people consider him to be a mythical person. His name appears in around 828 AD in the book Historica Britannium, but he may have not existed. Again, when you come to people like Rama Krishna, okay, whether they were real people, kings, or mythical people, we have to take a plethora of evidence because they uh, uh, the names Rama is already available in the Rig Veda, and is the final version of the Ramayana and Mahabharata are dated to between 200 BC and 200 AD. Okay, Hindutva people subscribe to mythical views of history. However, Marxist historians do not accept this at all, and they may go to swing to the other extreme. So you have to take diverse set of opinions from all kinds of people, etc, and this is very important, and we have different types of ideologies in place. I have told you Marxist ideology, Hindutva ideology. We have concepts such as Islamo-leftism, which is traced to Pierre Andre Tawif in 2002, and all history writing must be objective. Okay, there must be no whitewashing or there must be no exaggeration, etc. Scholarship must change with the time. We see that scholarship is presently not ideological free. Okay, the historical method and scientific method are also tightly integrated and they are aligned with each other. Historical method also must not be discounted. Its importance must not be underestimated. It is very important for scientific progress, and both the scholars from the left end of the spectrum and the right of the end of the spectrum have failed us miserably, and they have not done their part to foster objective science. Okay, we have also contributed a lot to scientific method. I have written papers on sociological identity and rule, the certainty, uncertainty principle, output criteria driven approaches, and many more. Please go through my papers on scientific method. I do look forward to day when there will be a complete revamp of pedagogy. The field of pedagogy must change completely with the times. I hope to be able to make some more videos in due course. Also, refer to my papers on pedagogy and my book also, which is published in Google Books. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.